but I got to a point where I was like, is this as good as it's going to get? Is this really all that I can achieve and accomplish? Because I feel like there's more. I feel like there's got to be more than just this. And if I don't change anything right now, I'm going to be in this exact same position in 5 years, 10 years.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Successful Stylist. Just really quick, we're having Jess Burgio, who is the founder of Creative House and the host of the Beauty Inspires Beauty podcast. And she's also an educator and speaker and the lover of all things industry. So welcome, Jess. And thank you so much for hanging out with us and passing all your knowledge and passion on to us.
You have to love when things like this come together and you get to like rap with people you wouldn't normally otherwise ever meet. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I want to hear your story because I know you've been in the industry for about the same time as me, a little over 20 years. How did you get started? And then maybe just walk us through the evolution that you have kind of been taken on in this journey of the industry.
It's wild. So I know, how do you sum up like 21 plus years in like a quick couple
of
sentences?
Right.
Well, like most of us, I was introduced to the industry early on. I got a job sweeping hair and kind of assisting in a salon before I really knew that's what I wanted to do. I grew up with terribly curly, frizzy hair that I didn't know how to do. And I was always figuring out ways to do my own hair, cutting the Barbies, the standard, that kind of thing. Never put two and two together. And it was junior year of high school. My girlfriend and I were talking about what we wanted to do. And she found a program where we could enroll for beauty school like a year before we graduated, get government funding and all this stuff. So I knew that if I did that, my mom couldn't tell me I couldn't do it because I knew she had every intention for me to be a doctor, lawyer, teacher, one of those standard fit in a box,
of course,
corporate, do what you're supposed to do, right? But that's because she started out in the industry. She was a makeup artist, did some modeling, and so she knew how tough the industry was that long ago, and that it was kind of frowned upon as not a very structured career where you could like really grow and scale your business, right? So needless to say, she did not approve, but I went to beauty school right out of high school. And within 3 months, I was like, this is not for me. The school was not very glamorous. It was very low level. Education was mediocre at best. And I was like, this is everything my mom said it was going to be. So I quit. So I'm a total beauty school dropout. And I went off, I traveled a little bit. I got a regular job at a restaurant. I went to community college. I took a few classes, felt very uninspired and very much like my creative wasn't being used. So your hours are good for about a year. I think that still might be the case. But when I went back the second time, I was a year older, year wiser. There was actually new teachers and I had to pay for it this time. So it hit a little differently because I had to put money where my mouth was. At the time, you guys are going to trip, beauty school was about $8,000. And in the mid 19th century. No, it feels like it. Yeah. I mean, it was like the shittiest school you could ever. I mean, we were like next to a pick and save. If anyone even knows what a pick and save is, it was not the jam. But I knew I wanted to be there. I knew I had tried a few other things, and I was a year older, like I said, and I was just so committed to being the best in that school, and everything just kind of fell into place. And from there, my mom was like, okay, listen, if this is what you're going to do, you're going to work in the best salon in San Diego. So my mom started getting her hair done at Robert Cromings, which we all know Robert Cromings is the artistic director of Paul Mitchell. Here in San Diego, there's a beautiful salon, which is now where the school is. So she started getting her hair done there. A couple of people from my school got jobs there. So I got my foot in the door at a really awesome place where when I walked in, I was like, these are my people. That rock star vibe, the like, we are influencers before we even knew what the word influencers were. It was like people looked to them for the trends. It was everything that I had hoped and thought that I would find. And so I settled in there, and it was a massive salon. So there was over 40 stylists that I got to learn from. I resonated with a few of them, my mentor being Abe Barron, who I then left a year later after my assisting program, went and opened a salon with him, and right away got thrown clients, and luckily had such a great foundation. I got to learn from DJ Muldoon, Michael Muldoon, his dad, Vidal Sassoon trained, just really epic. I had no idea how good I had it. I mean, mind you, I scrubbed toilets. We mopped the floors with our hands. We worked 15-hour days. Like, we were told what to wear, how to dress, when to take break. I mean, we did the whole shebang. But with that foundation, that's what I was able to build my career on. And I went from helping open that salon to then going off on my own a couple years later, really figuring out what entrepreneurship was in this industry and what my place was going to look like. I ended up finding a home at Hyde Edwards here in San Diego with Rebecca, who is the owner of Hyde Edwards still. And that was a place where I really got to like grow into my own, and where I realized what I did was slightly different than everybody else as far as my level of work and my level of work ethic. So why was I fully booked and consistent with clients when the person next to me wasn't? What was I doing that was different? So that's when I really started to pay attention to what I was doing that was different. I always had an assistant early on because I had been an assistant and knew like the level of which that could bring to your business. So making six figures within a year and a half of my career, and I was able to sustain that and then some by slowly dropping days down and condensing my days to I really only ever worked 3 days a week, especially after I had my son. So long-winded story of all of that, but all of that foundation from an assistant to seeing a salon open, maybe not in the best way, really a couple of people who wanted to do their own thing, throwing spaghetti at the wall. So it's literally like I've been in so many people's businesses as they've grown. The second salon I went to, she didn't really know what she was doing. Rebecca was still trying to figure it out. She was a brand new big salon owner. So seeing all of the ways in which we can do this business was like I can't even package that into like words of how much that's given me. And so, when it came time for me to open my own spot, I had a list of all the things I knew I didn't want to do and I knew how not to do it, but I still didn't have the playbook of like what you should be doing. And that's what I became really passionate about is teaching that structure, that strategy, that kind of like foundational knowledge of entrepreneurship, no matter what type of business you have. And I think that's the difference between other businesses is they look at other businesses to see how they're thriving and how they're doing it. In our industry, I don't know that we were really taught to do that because it's such a creative industry. The business side of it kind of gets skipped over and it's like what we really want to, oh, I'm just a creative. Oh, I just want to do hair. I just want to focus on one thing. So I think the evolution of me realizing that this really is a business and that if you treat it like one, you can be uber successful, whatever successful means to you. So in a nutshell, I now have sold that salon that I opened a couple years ago and have opened a mixed use like creative space where I house education and classes and workshops. And I still am behind the chair 1 day a week just to keep my, hands on the pulse of what's going on and to still, I haven't been able to let it go. So that's where I'm at now.
You mentioned that you went to a school that wasn't like super accredited, or it was just like, I mean, I had the same situation. Like it was shut down after I attended and it's no longer, but where do you think this passion comes from? Do you think it's something that you learned that you picked up from someone else? Do you think it lived within you? Do you think that once you found like your rhythm, that it just became easier? Like reflecting on that, where do you feel like that came from, those building blocks?
I think early on, I am competitive by nature. I like to win, whatever that means. I like to be included. I like to do my best. I like the pride of people being proud of you or doing those things. So I think that was always a driving factor of I'm always like, oh, so that's not what we should do. Okay, I'm going to show you that I can do it and it's going to be really good. So I think hairdressing for me was kind of that, being that my mom really didn't want me to go to beauty school. So there was always that underlying like, I'm going to show you. You're going to love me. You're going to talk about it. You're going to say what a wonderful hairdresser I am. I'm going to show you that you can be successful in this industry. And I think in proving it to her, I was proving it to our industry as well. And I quickly realized I wasn't alone in that task. There's a lot of people like you. And now we see with social media, there's so many of us who, without saying it, we also have all been trying to prove that this is not only a real job, a real business. It's a lucrative business if you want to make it. I always said this isn't a lucrative. I always would say salon ownership isn't lucrative. It isn't a moneymaker, but that was just a story I had been told and that had been fed to me. And so I bought it and I repeated it until I believed it. And it's taken me several years to unlearn the things that I was taught. So, going to a school that was kind of in the hood, I didn't get to go to a Paul Mitchell. We didn't have one yet here in San Diego. I didn't see the level of which we could take this industry. I had to kind of grow into that and develop my own way with it. So being able to turn around and teach that back and give that to anyone who's coming up, whether you've been in the game for 10, 15 years already, but you know that you don't have those foundational skills to push you further than you want to go. I think that's the thing that lights me up now is giving people information that they don't have because we don't know what we don't know. And in all fairness, it's fine to stay in your little bubble for a while. And I stayed in my bubble for quite some time and I was very comfortable. I'd hit, multiple six figures and I was like in flow and things weren't like, I wasn't having to try so hard anymore. I'd built the business more or less. I was able to sustain it. I had a young son at the time and I don't know what it was, but I got to a point where I was like, is this as good as it's going to get? Is this really all that I can achieve and accomplish? Because I feel like there's more. I feel like there's got to be more than just this. And if I don't change anything right now, I'm going to be in this exact same position in 5 years, 10 years. And in San Diego, making just barely six figures isn't enough to have the life that I wanted. And so I had to get really honest with myself that those six figures was a ceiling and like a point that I had wanted to reach that really drove me to get there. There was nothing further than that. I had put myself in this box with this glass ceiling and I was like, well, I'm here. I made it. Now what? So that's when I started to look outside at other things and let other people influence me with how podcasting was taking off several years ago. I had a few of my business mentors like kind of start talking about their podcast. And my background is also in fitness. And I used to be a competitive bodybuilder and personal trainer. So that was a spinoff of how you can use, side note, the clientele you already have in another arena. So a lot of my personal training clients came from my behind the chair business, which was awesome. And that's where I learned that I love to coach and mentor and kind of like lift people up through inspiration, motivation, and all of that. But with all that being said, I quickly realized I didn't know shit about business. I definitely didn't know anything about online marketing, building a brand, what any of that looked like. I just fallen into the Robert Crummies, like that was their brand and you fit in that box and that's what you did. No one taught me how to grow a personal brand. No one taught me the power of why you should have a personal brand. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate now for people to really understand you get to show up as yourself and you are your brand and you get to define what that means to you. And in doing that, in being your authentic self, you will draw in the right people to you that no matter what you end up putting out in the world, whether you write a book or you start a podcast or you create a course or you want to coach, mentor, teach, or you design a journal, you will have a community of people that already resonate with you because you are showing up as yourself.
I would love for you to share with everyone what maybe some of your greatest learning lessons that you've come to, like what helped you kind of make that turn that corner? Cause it's like, you're in this like really comfortable place where you're like, it feels like something's more, but I'm doing really well. I'm really killing it. Like, do I want to give this up? Do I want to take the risk? Like where did that point happen for you?
What I think got me to where I am was saying yes to everything that came my way early on, saying yes to every type of hair that got pushed on me. Hey, can you take this client? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? I became a high-level bridal stylist because no one else in my salon wanted to take bridals. I didn't want to wake up at Saturday and do 6 a.m. brides either. Are you kidding me? But there was money there. It pushed me out of my comfort zone. And so I had proven to myself in little ways that I could do things that scared the shit out of me. And saying yes early on, taking those men's cuts, taking short haircuts that I was scared of, or, doing some blonding technique I had never done before, or taking the perm that I'm like, I haven't done a perm in 3 years. Just saying yes help build my confidence that like, listen, you didn't die, you didn't melt their hair off, you could do the things. Like when you prove that stuff to yourself, those are the lessons that I think have stuck with me, so that when things are presented, I'm like, okay, that is scary. I have some fear around that. I'm aware of it, I acknowledge it, but what's the worst that's going to happen? I try and it doesn't work out, or I don't like it, or maybe I figure out a different way to try to do it. That's where I've been able to push through. And then the second thing is like knowing that you can trust your intuition when it's time to move salons, let's say, because as you grow, you'll evolve into who you're going to become. And that might change every 5, 6, 10 years. And I've had the opportunity to work with some incredible people because I allowed myself to move and flow through different salons. And never burning bridges, always trying to leave, with the most grace and honor and not doing anything that would leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth. So those lessons were kind of foundations of, growth. But greatest learning lessons are acknowledge when you're feeling something. If it's burnout, if it's overwhelm, if it's stress, if it's like knowing that I was ready for more, that was scary because I knew that I had to invest in myself at a level I had never done before. And when this opportunity presented itself, which was a business mastermind, the number was so scary that I was like, I could never pay that much money. I don't even know what I'm going to get. My return on investment. What would I even get from going to this? And I had to ask myself, well, what are you not going to get if you don't go? You don't know what you don't know. So are you willing to bet on yourself right now that maybe you'll just get a few new high-level friends that want to have conversations with you that you can evolve and grow with? And when I paid for that, I had to go get a credit card to put that investment down. But I knew, again, like beauty school, if I put my money where my mouth is, I'm going to show up and I'm going to play full out. And now 3 years later, I work for that same mastermind coaching early stage entrepreneurs. They've just hired me to run an episode of their podcast. So you never know what putting yourself in the line of like trying something new can evolve into. And so, saying yes to things, I think, was the greatest lesson I could give anybody, is just try some things on for size. If you start to have resistance around certain clients that are coming in your chair, ask yourself some questions. Do I not want to have these conversations with this type of person anymore? Are they not really my people anymore? That's okay. Do
Mhm.
they not want to pay my prices that I now feel are a better energetic exchange because I've leveled myself up personally? So therefore, what I am doing doesn't feel energetically aligned anymore. I know we're using these kind of woo woo words, but being an awareness of how you feel is your right. We're in a service-based industry. So if you feel things coming up, shoving them down for fear of losing clients, a scarcity mindset around them leaving because you raised your prices 30, 40 bucks. Listen, I promise you, like she said, the industry is so small. Let those clients go and see what else is out there. Actually encourage them. If my prices don't fit your budget anymore, here are a few people I think you might find to be great. 9 times out of 10, my clients, they come back.
What would your top 5 tips be for those who are listening who maybe feel a little stuck or bored? What do you want to pass on to our listeners?
Okay, this is where having an amazing podcast host comes into play. She sent me these, so I wrote them out, and I'm going to read what I wrote for you guys, because I think stuck and bored are kind of two different things, right? So you just need to check in with yourself to see if what you're really feeling is boredom, because yes, I do think stuck is different, but feeling stuck, I'm going to give you 3 of those. Try going back to what used to excite you in the very beginning when you first started. That's number 1 for me. If I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling like I'm not moving forward in the way I want to, check in and see what used to get you excited. If nothing used to get you excited, maybe this is just a passerby type of a career, and this isn't maybe what you're supposed to be doing, because feeling bored is totally normal. Feeling stuck is you're probably getting in your own way. Second thing, ask yourself if your environment is holding you back. If you want to grow and evolve and you want to blossom, and the environment that you're in isn't supportive of that, isn't encouraging of that, isn't motivating and inspiring you, I don't know if the saying "don't be the smartest person in the room" really applies to this one, but ask yourself, like, is my environment supporting the vibe and the life and the success that I want to have? Third thing, check in with your limiting beliefs, because generally that is what's keeping you small or keeping you stuck. And sometimes we don't even realize what we're thinking and doing. And that's why I have a morning routine where I check in with myself every morning. Some people don't need a morning routine. I do. And I ask myself, what's coming up? Because a lot of times I will feel stuck, and it's generally because I'm not doing the shit I'm supposed to be doing. Therefore, I'm not moving. I'm not progressing. I'm not like showing up the way I'm supposed to. So flip over to boredom. I wrote the first one: when was the last time you took a class completely unrelated to what you're currently doing? So say you're a blonding specialist and you have absolutely no intention of becoming a master, men's stylist, right? None. Take that class, lean into that class, and see what you can go in and learn. How can you find yourself in that educator's story? How can you pull 1 or 2 things that you can then translate over to blonding? Because I swear, every time I go to a class thinking, oh, I already know this, I come out being like, oh my God, I forgot I used to love doing that technique, and I'm going to go back to doing the thing that used to light me up and create this amazing, end result for me. So taking a class that's completely unrelated. Or if you've never taken a business class, how I invested in that mastermind, the business mastermind, I now have a brain full of like amazing things that I never gave myself before when I was younger. I didn't even know it existed. Second thing, are you creating enough play in your life so that you have fun and interesting things to talk about with your clients? Because I promise you will be bored talking to your clients if all you do is work, because your
Mm.
clients don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. They want to know what the latest movie you went to. They want to know about your vacation. They want to hear about your dog. They want to hear about your kids. This is a personal industry. And I think I've seen things over the years on social media where they talk about it not being so personal, that you shouldn't talk about that kind of stuff. But that creates relationships, and relationships are your net worth, right? The relationships you build in life, whether they're clients, friends, like, you have to connect at a personal level, because that you are a personal brand. So if you aren't bringing any good juice back to your clients, like, they come to us for what's the latest trends, what's the coolest thing, like, we're cool, they want to know what's cool. So you got to go do some cool shit so you can bring back some interesting conversation, right?
Yeah.
um and the third thing is, in what other ways could you be serving your current clients? Because if you're bored with what you're doing, maybe you need to expand. I had a mentor early on who all he did was eat, sleep, and breathe and talk about hair. And I
Mm.
was like, wow, that's really cool, but like, that's not me. I like to do other things. I was into fitness and training and wellness and, all of this other stuff. I like to go snowboarding, and he didn't do anything. All he did, like I said, eat, sleep, breathe, hair. And I go, well, I guess I'm not a very good hairdresser if this isn't all I want to talk about and do. But what I realized was like my clients only wanted to talk about all that other stuff. And then when I got pushed into kind of getting my personal training certification and I started to become more fit, my clients could see that. And they were like, it became a conversation starter. And then it became another stream of revenue where I was doubling down on Susie, who came in for highlights. I now saw her twice a week at the gym for training. It was amazing how I could take the clientele I had already built because of my relationship, clout with them, that they then already trusted me to train them. So
That's
it was
cool.
an amazing way for me to, and maybe you want to get into Reiki. Maybe you want to do something else that could feed your clientele. Like I've seen a lot of people doing tarot card readings for their clients or
Yeah.
spiritual stuff. Abby Rose, she does a lot of cool stuff like that. Or maybe you want to dabble in something like Monate and sell a product that then can service the clients. If you say you stop doing hair tomorrow, but you could still have that revenue stream of business with them because they can buy from you, whether it's, hair product, skin product, vitamins, maybe you want to affiliate for somebody. Like, how can you create more, going on in your life so you're not bored?
So if we talk about like, I guess predictions, if we talk about the shift that's happening in our industry and how we've been expanding, you and I, we're doing things now that are not necessarily hair related, but we're applying the same principles that we did behind the chair to other aspects of our business and just focusing on sewing those relationships, keeping those relationships going. What do you see happening? What do you predict is going to happen in our industry?
I mean, it's already happening. The shift since our closure with the words that cannot be spoken, I think played such a huge role in up-leveling our industry. It's something that was so hard to get through and recover from, but those that already had their foot on the gas pedal have seen massive success. I'll name Carly Zanoni with her Blonde Chronicles education page. The level of which, if you're willing to play, can be exponential. These girls are making $20,000 to $30,000 a month through a private education pages. So to say that you cannot be monetarily successful in this industry, grow another stream of revenue, start podcasting, like it is now whatever you want it to be. We are not in a box anymore. And makes my, like, I literally, true story, when I joined that mastermind, that business mastermind I was talking about earlier, I had don't judge me. I mean, judge me if you want. I had every intention of getting away from our industry. I had all of my own self-limiting beliefs of hairdressers because it was me. I was thinking about myself. You're disorganized. You're not really great with money. You don't know how to budget. You spend more than you make. Like all of these negative like things that I thought if I got away from our industry, that nobody else was going to be like that. Well, that's human behavior. That has nothing to do with being a hairdresser, right? It has nothing to do with being a hairdresser because when I started to share those fears of working with our people, our industry, I was quickly like bitch slapped back by my other peers in the group who did all kinds of other businesses. They were like, that's normal in every business. It's not just hairdressing, Jessica. And I was like, well, I've lived in a bubble for 19 years, so I didn't know that. So again, I didn't know what I didn't know. So my predictions are the level of craftsmanship is next level. It's never been as amazing as it is now. When you come from what used to be a toner and a like the names and the way that all of these techniques have grown, I'm blown away. I'm impressed. I'm blown away. I'm constantly a student learning, and I feel like I honestly don't even know, because one of the things that I want to acknowledge is charging your worth. And I really feel like there's been weird conversations around it, almost like it's our clients' faults. I've seen posts on social media, like, if your client doesn't respect what you want to charge, then, double middle fingers to them. I'm like, well, we have to train people how to, work with us. And if you've done something up until this point that your clients expect, and then you want to just go ahead and raise your prices and change your whole vibe, like you have to expect you maybe have to start all over. Just like with me, if I wanted to pull away from behind the chair and then come back a couple years later, I could reinvent myself as XYZ and charge 10 times as much as I do now. So really, this industry is whatever you want to make it. So I believe sitting down and getting really granular with what does success mean to to you? What does, financial security and freedom mean to you? And really mapping out what that means to you personally, not what the person next to you says is, not what Ambrosia and I are doing. Like, what does it mean to you in this industry, and what can you possibly create? Because the possibilities are endless. They honestly are. I wish I would have had this knowledge or this leadership or these conversations even that we're having right now. I wish these could have been available when I was starting out, so I knew I had options and that the opportunities were limitless. I didn't have to just put myself in a box and show up every day and do things that didn't light me up. I wouldn't change anything in my career. I honestly wouldn't. But I will say, like, just what you were just talking about, when I opened my salon, people were like, "Oh my God, congratulations. That's so amazing." And then when I went to sell my salon, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you selling your salon? What are you going to do now?" And I'm going to tell you, when I sold the salon, it left a hole in me because I was like, who am I now that I'm not a salon owner? Am I just a hairdresser again? And I was like, ew, here you go again with your limiting belief. Just a hairdresser. Bitch, like, I always have to have these conversations with myself and check in and be like, you opened a business. 6 months later, the pandemic tried to take you out. You thrived, you pushed through, and then you sold for profit. Like, heck yeah. Like, and now it created runway and space for me to have my dream space, to have an education workshop space where I can still do hair part-time. I manage my assistant. She works in there. I podcast in there. I rent it out for other people to podcast in there. It's like, give yourself the opportunity to see what is possible. And when you show up, when you listen to podcasts like this, when you invest in people's courses and programs to learn the things you think you might already know, just remember, you could probably be doing it better. And people would still look at me now like, you're crazy. Like, why are you doing all of these things? Why aren't you just happy with your 6-figure behind the chair business? And I ask myself the same thing. Sometimes I'm like, I wish I wasn't like this. But if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you get it. If you don't, that doesn't make you wrong. Like, people like us need people like you who are listening that want to have structure and show up consistently and be led by somebody who has wild, crazy dreams. All crazy dreamers need integrators, and we need solid teammates, and we need people to see the vision so that we can all roll together and all grow together. So there's a place for all of us in this industry. And a lot of times you got to try different things on for size. So stay open.
So do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with, Jess?
Push yourself out of your comfort zone daily. And one of my buddies, Lucas Doney, said, I am always trying to grow my comfort zone so that I'm never uncomfortable. And that landed with me because I think even getting up to work out every day is still uncomfortable for me. Choosing the healthy option over the French fries, still uncomfortable. I still want the bad stuff, so push yourself out of your comfort zone. If that means, if you're scared of men's cuts, bring a few models in and lean in. If you're scared of razoring, take a class. If you're intimidated by selling products, ask your clients, how do you like to be sold to? Allow for them to tell you what they need, and lean into the things that make you uncomfortable, because it will prove to you on a daily basis, if you do one small thing every single day like this, that they're not so scary. You just have to do it, and it's like one small step creates that confidence that next thing you know, those things won't be uncomfortable anymore. And you'll be doing things that you never even dreamed of because they were so wildly out of your mind scary that you wouldn't even allow for yourself to think that big. So push yourself out of your comfort zone daily, lean in, ask questions, get around people doing the things you want to be doing. If you're inspired by somebody, let that drive you to get closer to them. Do whatever you can to get around them. And I put myself in rooms with people I couldn't afford to be there, but I offered my services. I offered hair and makeup. I offered to take out the trash. I offered to hold the door. I offered to clean up. Even at my age, even where I'm at now, I knew starting over was going to require a new version of me. And so I went back to what worked in the beginning: showing up, giving 100%, never being too good to do something, right? I'm 41. I don't want to take the fucking trash out, but I will if it means I could be in the room with the people who are in a place in their life doing what the heck I want to be doing. So remember to stay humble and grounded and keep showing up, but do things that kind of push you out of your comfort zone every single day.
You guys, your time and attention is so valuable to us, and we really want to thank you. And I also want to give you a big thank you, warm love and hugs for all the shout outs that you're doing and for the podcast reviews that you're giving us. Keep in mind that for the first 5 who give us a podcast review, you guys will get a little hookup from Olivia Garden. They are going to give you guys 20% off. So make sure you do that. And also follow Olivia Garden as well. And I just want to remind you guys to dream big, set goals, take action, guys. And we will see you all next week.